to get us started, can you give a brief introduction just on like who you are and what conditions you have?
Yeah, my name is Nicole, and I have endometriosis.
When did you get diagnosed with endo?
2 years ago, so May of 2023. But my symptoms,
Mhm.
I'm sure this is the follow-up question. My symptoms started when like, got debilitating when I was 16. I'm 28 now, and so my diagnosis is 26. But now knowing like the multi-organ impact of endo, which I didn't know until after my surgery, even though
Mhm.
I had all the multi-organ symptoms, I still always thought it was just periods.
Mhm.
My symptoms started, like my stomach issues were really bad when I was like 9. So just
Yeah.
now thinking like, when did the symptoms really start? Because it definitely was earlier than 16.
Yeah. I also have had a lot of thinking on that too. I got diagnosed when I was 20. I'm 27, but I started having symptoms like I was in and out of the hospital and the doctor's offices like a lot when I was in especially in high school, but even in like my middle school, like teenage years, there were a lot of like digestive problems. And I ended up getting my gallbladder taken out when I was like 15. And now, as a 27-year-old, and like all of this research coming out more than what we've had in the past 10 years, but all this research coming out with endo recently, I've started to like really like go down a rabbit hole with my doctor and be like, what are all these symptoms that I had in childhood? And are these related to endo or like do we
Yeah.
know? And it's just so interesting. Yeah. So, what were like your biggest symptoms that you kind of started to realize that maybe like something was wrong?
Period pain was awful. So
Okay.
that because like one of my biggest things is like acknowledging that endo isn't a period disease, but at the same time, like I'm the first person to say that was the most awful symptom for me. So like a little bit of both, but yeah, period pain was unbearable. And it just like kept getting worse and kept getting worse. But I would just, like my whole family has like all the women in my family struggled with painful periods,
Hmm.
periods and like struggling to get pregnant, things like that. So it was just like, oh yeah, like endo's probably in our family. My mom was diagnosed with it. I was born via
Oh,
C-section, and when I was being delivered, the gyno was like, "That looks like abnormal tissue. Let me scrape it and test it," and came back positive for endo. Nothing ever happened from that. Like, but she does have confirmed diagnosis that she has endometriosis, like technically surgical
yeah.
diagnosis. So when I started having issues, like my family knew what endo was. So I didn't have the whole issue of like finding this word that nobody knew existed.
Yeah.
At least I knew what it was and then was able to like they told me like my they being my family told me like there's a genetic component, so like odds are you have it and that's what it is, and like you just learn to deal with it. Like you bring an extra,
Yeah.
like my aunt would always tell me, when you go to work, like you're gonna like when I was 16, she'd be like, this is what you need to remember when you start working. Um, Keep an extra pair of pants or an extra skirt that's like black in your office, in case you get your period and you start bleeding through, or keep a jacket around you in case you even go through that, or like a sweater that you can wrap around
Hmm.
if you're like in a conference room and start heavy bleeding. So it was just all like that's just one example, but it was all just so normalized that
Yeah.
okay, like Motrin doesn't work for me, Tylenol doesn't work for me, and then the gynecologists not being knowledgeable on endo doesn't help because I remember I was like 17 or 18.
Hmm.
And I was like in my period tracker, like in the app, it said I was getting my period for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I would like both, like that was my timeline. So I'm like,
Yep.
I'm gonna miss 2 holidays now. Like one I can deal with, but both. So she gave me a Percocet prescription. And I'm like, this is not, there's no way that like this is their response to like this type of pain. But
Hmm.
it was just so normalized.
So
So
normalized. Also, the fact that you just said, "Oh, I'm gonna miss two holidays and not one," also like speaks volumes to like how bad your periods were because it was normalized to you that
to
if
miss
you're
one.
on your period, that like you're not participating in activities, like you're down. So that's something that I've also like realized well, first of all, painful periods like that like take you out of everything are not normal. And that is kind of like should be like the first red flag to people. But like you, it was pretty normalized in my family too. Although like we didn't know that it was endo. But now going back, my mom had a hysterectomy like 2 years ago and got diagnosed with endometriosis. And then my grandma had some very similar periods to like me and my mom. And I'm like, she probably had it too. And it was
Yeah.
just normalized. Like, this is graphic, but like my mom and I get like blood clots like in from our periods and it was awful. Like I remember having that as a teenager and like crying to my mom and being like, "Mom, you gotta look in the toilet. Like this isn't normal." And she'd be like, "I get those all the time. You're fine." And I'm like, "What?" So the normalization of it definitely hinders a diagnosis for a while, but interesting though that like you guys knew what it potentially was, because that's something that I haven't heard before.
And it's interesting too because my mom's family and I live in New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey, and that's where
Hmm.
my mom's family, like we all lived or grew up in like a 7-minute triangle. So like just grew up close to that side. And
Yeah.
my mom's family is in Long Island. So like we would see each other, but not as frequently. And after, so, but they knew like all my issues. I was in and out of school. I was like barely graduated high school because of just
Oh.
absences. And they knew all that. And then after my surgery 2 years ago, my grandfather, who God bless him, is 99, but like, so at the time he was 97, but like, talking to him is like talking to a 30-year-old. And he was like, no, you're certain. He's like, what happened? Because I didn't even like want to like make him nervous. So we didn't tell him about my surgery until after.
Yeah.
But when he found out, he's like, this endometriosis. He's like, your grandmother had it, your aunt has it. And I'm like, how did you, like, it took surgery for this to come out? Like, you knew I had all these issues my whole life. Like, why now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all over dad's side too. So it's like it's great because it's on
Interesting.
both sides. Like I like was meant to. I was born to have endometriosis.
Yeah, like you were going to have it.
Yeah, one side was so
Very,
talkative about it, and the other one was not.
very interesting. Very, very interesting. I wonder, you know, obviously I'm not going to speak for your family because I have no idea, but I'm wondering if maybe there's like the taboo-ness of it. Like for
Yeah,
so long, I mean, still a lot of people think this way, but for a very long time, people were like, it's a period disease. Like we don't want to, it's women, we don't want to talk about it, gross, whatever. So I'm like, maybe that has, because that was an issue within my family too, is that like when I was in high school, I have younger brothers, and everyone was like, "Stop talking about your period all the time." And I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, "Mom, I'm in pain and I'm not on my period. Like, I'm crawling on the ground in pain, not bleeding." But the things that like pushed my mom to take me to the doctor was like missing school because I was bleeding everywhere. It's fun. And I'm like, this is not normal. Like, I can't get through a class because I have to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes because I'm bleeding. So, like, that's when it started to be like, oh, okay, I need to take her to the doctor because she's missing so much school. And then, like, my high school got involved because they were like, well, we're going to mark her truant, which was a
yeah,
huge thing.
me too.
So, so many things. But okay, so wow, interesting. So, I mean, it still took you a long time to get diagnosed. Like,
Yeah,
it's only been like, what, 2 years that you've been able to like officially. I mean, did you know though? Were you like before, were you like, okay, my,
100%. But
yeah,
like by the time I was like when it got really debilitating and like you said like the ER trips and all that stuff
yeah,
like I knew like my family like my mom was diagnosed like 100%, but there's
yeah,
always that doubt like even going into the operating room like well what if
mm-hmm,
not, like this is a last ditch effort, like what if pathology comes back and it's all negative and like well, what the hell's wrong with me, like then there's no hope, because I would always say to myself like as I'm like sitting there like keeled over and like passing out whatever.
yeah,
I always say like 3 more months and then that's your surgery date. 3 more months, you can do this. You've done it for how many your years? Like a couple more
yeah,
months, you got this. So it was kind of like a cocaine pick to like have this goal of like the last resort. Um,
yeah,
and I mean, yeah, it came back. I'm thankfully, like strangely thankfully, because it's like
I
better
know.
to have an answer, I guess, and be able to deal with it. But I don't want to like go off track, but because of what you were talking about before, I do want to ask you like your experience with, especially like as a kid and like as a teenager,
Hmm.
talking about it or like telling like your
Yeah.
friends about it if like guys or girls were more understanding because I like even like with missing school, like since we both had that experience, like I
Hmm.
would always because I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm on my period or I'm, shitting myself. I didn't want to say that when like your crush is right there, right? When you're like
Hmm.
15. So I would always like pretty much every month have like a new ailment. So it would be like a fever or an ear infection or the flu or
Yep.
strep throat. Strep throat was a big one for me. That I
Hmm.
would just make up so that people didn't think I like, I don't know, the period in some
Yeah.
way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but guys were always understanding. Like the guys were always the ones that were like, whatever. And even male teachers, like what I would like the IEPs and all that stuff, like when I would say, okay, I can predict when I would be out of class. Like I can predict when I'm here. Like so
Hmm.
I'm happy to take the quiz or the exam ahead of time instead of late, like to
Hmm.
avoid automatic zero. And the female
Hmm.
teachers, when it was just the IEP and they didn't know, then they were accommodating. But once I told them that it was period pain or stomach issues, they're like, come on, like this is what this is about.
Yep.
The
Yep.
male's like, whatever you need.
I had a very similar experience to that. And what was frustrating for me about it is that I did really, really well in school and I wanted to do well. Like I loved school. Like I wanted to study. I did really well in school. And then I think my sophomore and junior year, I started doing really, really bad. Like things started to get rough. And I would like just I just was missing things and I went to my teachers to talk to them about it and I was just like, "Hey, I'm in a lot of like I would be in the bathroom a lot during classes and they would I just remember I remember having parent-teacher conference, and my teachers asked if I was like getting into the wrong crowd. They were like, "Oh, is she like experimenting with things? Is she getting into the wrong crowd?" I think they thought I was like smoking in the bathroom or something. Like, I don't know like what they were thinking, but I was in the bathroom like keeled over in pain, and they just assumed that I was like being naughty, basically.
Yeah.
So,
You ever take Beano?
no, what is that?
Like, I don't even see it at like CVS. It's probably pulled off the market. Who knows? But it's basically like a Tums or like a Gas X, but
Mm,
it melts under your tongue. And in high school, like I didn't want anybody like seeing that in a
yeah.
bag. So I would just put in like a Tic Tac container. Um,
Uh-huh.
and it didn't like you couldn't tell what it was. But I eventually got I guess I don't know, I was in the gymnasium or something and I popped it and I guess it was clearly not a Tic Tac. Um,
Yeah.
so then I got pulled in and they came
Oh
over
no.
this whole scene like we need like right in front of everybody like we need to check your bag like we're gonna check it right here so you don't have time to do anything and they were like checking my bag for drugs and they called my mom and they're like we're
Oh my
suspecting
God.
that Nicole's doing and then my mom because of everything going on she's like she's probably getting into drugs because she's so stressed out like nobody believes her so then she started checking my bag every day for drugs and I'm like
Oh
it's
my
Beano
God.
I am smuggling Beano into the school.
Try not to puke.
Yeah.
My God. Uh, yeah, no, I definitely had, yeah. And I feel like this is gonna sound so stereotypical to like high school movies, whatever, but like, this was real. I was a cheerleader, and so, cheer team, whatever. But there were those were the girls that I got the most shit from when I was in pain and would like miss things or like I was a flyer, so like if I missed stuff, like I fucked things up because like they're supposed to be practicing with me and I would miss things. And then and I was like, guys, like I was in the hospital, like I'm sick and then they wouldn't understand that like well, first of all, I didn't really know. I remember there was a time my junior year, I got admitted to the children's hospital for like 5 days, and I was on my period that whole time. Tell me why the doctors like didn't like I remember I was like drugged up on morphine the whole time, but I remember them like changing pads for me. And I'm like, why didn't they connect that like something might be wrong like from my period? I'm telling you that I'm having like abdominal pain. Like I don't but they tested, like, I remember getting a brain scan. They gave me an MRI to, like, see if I had a tumor.
Because you went in with abdominal pain?
Yeah. And they like couldn't figure out what I think we were on like day 5 and they like resorted to just giving me like a brain scan because they're like, well, she's puking nonstop, like we don't know what's going on. And she's like, I have all this pain, but they couldn't figure out what the pain was from. But anyways, that was a tangent. But from that, I missed like a bunch of, I think I missed some like cheer competitions, like whatever. And my team was like the least understanding out of everyone. Like the random guys in high school were like so much more like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Da, da, da. And that was like, I was hospitalized. Like
Yeah,
that should be the time where people are the most understanding. But
that's when you get like the
yeah,
I can't think of the right word, but like it's more valid if you were like home.
yeah,
It's like no
yeah,
other people believe that I was sick, so they put me on. Like I got admitted. Like
yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
line. It's like, okay, you can believe me now.
Yeah, like I literally went into the hospital in our little small town and they took me from that hospital to the huge Atlanta Children's Hospital and they kept me there for days. And then they actually were going to take out so my mom is in healthcare. And apparently I was literally so high on painkillers that entire time. I feel like I was there for 2 days, but we were there for much longer. But apparently they couldn't figure out what was going on. I had gotten my gallbladder taken out a year prior, and they were gonna just take out my appendix because they're like, well, it seems fine, but maybe that's the issue. Maybe like something with the gallbladder surgery and like the appendix, and we'll just take it. My mom's like, no, like you can't just take an organ because you don't like you can't figure out what's wrong. So then we ended up leaving against medical advice because we were there for like 5 days and they didn't do anything. So my mom's like, okay, we're just gonna go home. I don't know what else to do. So yay.
Then you
I
go home like back to your regular routine.
Yep, yep. Like everything like that didn't just happen. And I like thinking back on it, I'm like, how did like if this was my kid and she was just in the hospital for like 5 days and then like yeah, like I was fine after that. Like I think my period ended and I was like, okay. Like what I would probably think that my kid was crazy. I'd be like, what? What the fuck was that? Like you just were crawling on the ground in pain and now you're fine. I
Yeah.
I understand.
I,
Like we're yeah.
I have a vivid memory of it was like one of the hospital trips. It was like I should have been in school. I didn't go. And it was
Yeah.
because I was in pain all morning. Like I couldn't leave the bathroom. And it wasn't even my period. It was like my daily stomach stuff. And and my parents were both in the car. My dad was driving, and we're like halfway there. And he looked back at me and I was in the back seat and I was on my phone. And I was
Hmm.
literally Googling. And like I wasn't just like texting or on at the time Vine. Like I
Yeah.
was I was
Fine.
Googling, I was Googling like endo and stomach and like what could help? Is there medication? How do you get rid of this disease? Because like I knew I had it, but knew nothing about it. Like none of the doctors gave me any info. So I was just constantly
Yeah.
Googling it. And I was just like in the back seat like this. And he's like, this, and he's just it's like set him off, like seeing me scrolling. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'm taking you to the hospital and you're on your phone. You could be in school right now. You're fine. You're sitting back there. I'm like, you have to and obviously as a teenager, I just like
Yeah.
cried. I don't know how to like how to relay this, but now I could look back and be like, I should have explained. Not that he would have believed it at the time, but first of
Yeah.
all, it comes in like I don't want to say sessions, but like it comes in bits and pieces, and like
Yeah.
nobody understands that. That like it
Hmm.
literally is you're in unbearable pain, or you're in a pain that's like unbearable to a normal person, but we've learned how to handle,
Yeah.
or you're in no, but like you're okay, or you're in a place where like you're uncomfortable, you know something's wrong, so you're going to the hospital, which is what I was in that moment in time. Um,
Yeah.
but that doesn't take away from the fact that I was like obliterated on the bathroom floor
Yeah.
3 hours prior to that morning in pain. Like just because I'm able to sit on my phone now doesn't mean that this morning didn't
Yeah.
happen. And that's why we're going to the hospital now because we need an answer for why that
Exactly.
happened. And like nobody can grasp that. I feel like even for parents, like I'm so lucky that my parents did understand. Like my mom always understood it. Obviously she has it, and my dad eventually
Yeah.
did, but I didn't get like my dad's sympathy until I got so bad like a year or so later that like I
Hmm.
was vomiting and passing out, and he would see me like
Yeah.
I wasn't like asking for help, like I would just he would come upstairs and see me like crawling on the floor to get to the bathroom, and like that's when he was like, oh shit, like she isn't lying. Or it would be a Saturday, so like clearly to get out of school or a holiday. Like it shouldn't take all that to get there.
I know, I know. I feel like that is the most frustrating part too, because I like so many of us with endo like live through that for so long. And
Yeah.
then you get really good at like masking, and then you also get really good at playing yourself down and like not believing yourself because you have to at some like at least for me, I remember like the beginning of college, I honestly did think I was crazy. I was like, something must actually be wrong with my brain if I, like, everyone around me is telling me that I'm not in as much pain as I am, but I get these like waves of pain where I'm, yeah, like passing out, puking, like not okay. And I'm just like, I remember like when I pushed to get, I honestly, people ask me all the time, like, oh, when was the first time you like heard of endometriosis or like when was the first time you thought that you had it? And I actually don't remember. I just remember like begging my OBGYN to give me surgery because I was like, just look. I'm like, please just tell me if it's there because if it's not there, then something else is wrong and then we can just check it off the list and like we can look for something else because I'm like I'm getting to the point where like I've just checked me into a psych ward because I'm like I don't know what's wrong with my brain if it's not connecting to like what's actually happening in my body. So that was a really scary place to be. Like, and I
Did
feel
your
like so
school
many of
ever
us.
suggest that?
What was that?
Did your high school ever suggest that?
Yeah. Well, they suggested that I I had some like things happen in my childhood that like they knew about and they suggested that I had PTSD and that my PTSD was like giving me delusions basically. So, yeah, kinda.
So, I mean, they didn't relate it to, they're just like, there's nothing, like every doctor you go to is telling you you're fine. So, um,
Hmm.
clearly this is in your head and like you're
Hmm.
hyper focusing on it. So, like, you're anxious. And then they would think that I was like bullied and like all this shit, which like I wasn't. But obviously, like, your friendships are strained when you're missing school so much.
Yeah.
But like, that wasn't the main issue. And they, because of the truancy and like not going to school, the work around that to still be able to graduate was going to this outpatient psychiatric program like instead of school. So
Oh
I would
wow.
do my core classes. I would go to the outpatient psychiatric program during the day, and I was like group therapy, but it was with other kids that like actually had like schizophrenic tendencies or bipolar or
Yep.
like severe anger issues. And I'm sitting there like, do I belong here? Like, I
Yeah.
to sign like a note saying like if you feel suicidal when you leave, like that you would there's a safe person in your home that you would tell. And I'm like, why am like my stomach hurts? Like, why am I here? Like this is and then you start like you're a teenager, you're impressionable.
Yeah.
Like some of these kids are saying things, and I'm like, I relate, like I feel the same way. I'm angry. I'm
Yeah.
anxious as hell. Like I'm crying all the time too. Like, do I have things in common with it? Like, am I bipolar? Am I creating this in my head?
Hmm.
Like, I'm fine
Hmm.
and I'm not. That's a definition of bipolar. Like you're up and then
True.
you're down. And like, that's what I'm experiencing, but it's because of my pain. And that's where that just like made things so much worse because then everything became a psychiatric evaluation and psychiatric meds, which then made
Hmm.
everything worse and missing more school because of the side effects of those. And even like just it's another tangent, but like I went on Zoloft and had a horrible, horrible experience. And it was the night before Mother's Day.
Hmm.
I was on for like 2.5 weeks, and that's when I learned how medical like clinical trials are only done at the or I guess for that medication were only done on men who were like
Oh, yeah.
210 pounds, and I was a 16-year-old female, and I was not 210 pounds. So but the dosage was the same. So I was in class temporarily, but I was getting asked to leave because I was slurring my words, like I was drunk. So
Oh my God.
then oh, we'll just take it down and like stay home a couple of days while you adjust on it. But it's not going to count truancy because we're telling you to stay home. And it was the night before Mother's Day, and I something happened with my like dopamine and serotonin and like all those other chemicals in your
Hmm.
brain. And my heart was beating like out of my chest, like you could literally see the bumps coming. And in the
Oh
room
my
was
God.
spinning, and I was sweating like I was soaked. It was the middle of the night, and I'm like, I'm dying. Like I literally had that. I'm like, I'm dying, and my
Yeah.
and told my mom, like, call the ER, I am dying. And then, I mean, nothing, they're like, you just had an allergic reaction, like, you're allergic to SSRIs, like, you just stop it immediately. Um, but I was like, Happy Mother's Day. And then a month later, they put me on Lexapro, which is an SSRI. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it was another doctor, but I'm like telling them about the experience with Zoloft. And I'm like, I'm allergic, like, this is what happened. And they're like, oh, we don't expect the same thing to happen with Lexapro, but like, just start it and we'll see. So I started it, and like 3 days later, I started having the same beginning symptoms I had on Zoloft. So I stopped it. But it's like none of this, like this was all just worse, and it made everything worse. Like
Yeah,
I needed like Ultra Peptos and Ultra Motrins.
for real. I know. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I don't want to I don't want to go there, but at the same time, I guess I'm gonna go there. But like, is it because we're women? Is it because we were teenage girls and they think we're dramatic?
Yeah,
Probably.
I think
It's just
so.
frustrating. And I also had that experience. So this is like the worst part for me. My OBGYN, the one that diagnosed me with endo, I had an ablation and she I was naive and like also didn't really know much about endometriosis. I actually don't even know if I got diagnosed 7 years ago. So like was there excisions? Probably. But I like didn't know about them and I
Yeah,
had no
hard
idea.
to
Like,
find.
yeah. I lived in a really like small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan too, like where I was going to college. So like definitely didn't have them anywhere near me. But yeah, she did my surgery and she was the worst, like worst person that I could have ever been around in that part of my life. She did not believe me that I was in pain, did the surgery after she made me do a chronic pain journal for a year to like write down my symptoms, how many days I'm missing of school. Like I was like about to fail my sophomore year of college because in college you could only miss a certain amount of classes and then you fail the class. So I'm
Yeah,
like, I need help. Whatever. So finally she did the surgery and she claims that she told me like everything about the surgery and then it was a exploratory diagnostic surgery and she didn't intend on like actually taking out any of the endometriosis if she found it. I don't remember that conversation, but apparently she told me that after the surgery because I was like I came back like 6 months later and I'm like I'm still in a shit ton of pain. Like what's going on? And she's like, "Oh, I only took off like a little bit of your I only burned off a little bit of your endo." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like I was in surgery for hours. And she's
yeah,
like, "Well, I looked around, I diagnosed you, I burned off a little bit, but also I'm not a specialist, so I'm not gonna she's like, I didn't feel comfortable doing anything. So I was like, great, okay. At the same time, like people ask me now, they're like, well, if you were to do that over, would you do it again? I probably would because I got diagnosed and that's like I remember coming out of the surgery and I was like, oh, thank God. Like I have something. I'm not crazy because for so many years I definitely thought I was. And she just like looked at me and she's like, this is a chronic illness. Like we shouldn't be happy about this. And I'm just like, I know. I like, ugh, but at least I know something now.
that matter was shit.
Yeah, it was the whole thing. And that, I mean, it's been like 7 years since that. And it's something that I've been like gradually trying to, like, I've been literally working through that in therapy for years. Cause I'm just like, all the things that she like said to me after the surgery and like, she like found things in surgery that she never told me about. I finally got my surgery records literally a year ago and was able to go over them with my primary care doctor now. Like I've had an enlarged liver since that surgery at least. She notated it, but like never told me. And there's like a whole bunch of other things that like I'm just like crazy. But anyways, so that brings me into I want to talk about excision surgery with you. And from that surgery, it's been 7 years, and I've been like, okay, I need to get an excision surgery. I need to find a specialist. I found them. I know about it, but I'm terrified to have another this is from that surgery experience, it's like held me back in my brain from having another surgery because I'm scared.
Yeah.
So what has been your experience? Like you had an excision, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know the difference at the time.
Okay.
So that's I just got very lucky because I was looking. I'm like I said, I'm in New Jersey, so I was looking at doctors in New York, and it was 2 years ago too.
Hmm.
That had a major part to do with it. But when I was Googling endometriosis specialist, because my gynecologist and the amount I went to because I wanted to get surgery wouldn't operate on me. They were just like, we don't know what we're dealing with. Like surgery has high complication or high risk complications. Like you never want to do surgery unless you really need it. And
Yeah.
I can't live like this anymore. I need it. Like I'm taking that risk of whatever the hell the complication can be.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to find somebody who would operate on me. And blessing in disguise, silver lining, they would have done the ablation. So I'm happy they didn't. I mean, they kind of fear-mongered me about it, but they didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
thankfully. So the only ones that would were the out-of-network excision specialists. But I didn't know they were excision specialists. I thought they were just endometriosis specialists. So I'm like, all right, gynos aren't doing anything. Let me see if there's endometriosis specialists. And I didn't even think of it. I'm just like, oh, I don't know. It's New York. Of course, they're out of network. Like I didn't. I'm just like, I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm like, I need to get this done. When I say I don't care, like that does have like a kind of like I don't say I don't care because I had a shit ton of money and I'm like, oh, I don't care. I drained my 401k. I worked
Mhm.
my ass off to save up. I freelance on the side for my full-time job for years. That money's all gone. Like that, it wasn't I don't care because money comes easy. It was I don't care because I can't live. I can't live like
Yeah.
that.
Like it was a
I'll be
desperate
in debt
need to
forever.
do
I
it.
don't care. Like I can't
Yeah.
live like this. So I found a specialist and went to them and knows at first I remember just like crying because he's like, what's your pain like on a scale of 1 to 10? And and he quotes me all the time on this. He's like, you said 110 out of 10 or like 100 million or whatever I said. And and he's like, that's the common thing. And he's like, gynos just don't hear that. Like you could say that and they just roll their eyes like, oh, everybody says that. And it's like, but that's
Yeah.
the problem that most women say that. That is the issue.
Yeah.
And like just because most women say it doesn't mean it's not to be believed. It means that there's a disease that 1 out of 10, I think that number has been upped,
Yeah.
have. And and not just diagnosed. Like obviously that number is higher because the amount of women that are undiagnosed. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I found my excision specialist. I got surgery. I and that the other part of it too is like the way I relayed my symptoms to the doctor because of what we were talking about before and being like masking them and getting so used to them. They booked me for the first surgery in the morning because they thought I'd be like quick and done, in and out same day. And just like they're like maybe we'll have like what find one lesion up against your colon and that will help your stomach issues.
Yeah.
6.5 hour surgery, bumped out the whole. There were like two scheduled after
Oh my
me. One girl
God.
was like just super late, and the other one they had a bump to another day. And I was in the hospital for my surgery was Friday. I was discharged at like 1 a.m. on technically Monday. And then because he was scared, because they had to dig into my colon because there were 20, not just 20 around the colon, and then like 25 around the rectum, not one. I was high risk for like a bowel perforation, so he didn't want me going back to Jersey. He wanted me near
Oh.
the hospital in Manhattan, so I had to get a hotel room. So then, and I finally got clearance. Basically, after like two successful bowel movements, I was able to go home. Um,
Mhm.
but even then, he's like you're not totally clear from complications. Like still no fiber, no like literally eating
Wow.
under white bread and potatoes every day for a couple weeks. So way more serious than what was expected because of how used we get to our symptoms and relay them. So that's another thing I just always like to acknowledge. But yeah, the excision, I mean, I personally had a great experience. I know other women have different
Mhm.
experiences. I was lucky enough to have the money there to drain. So still a shitty financial situation, but at least I was able to pull it from somewhere, just essentially started over financially. But that, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, the whole financial part, can I get into that? Like
Oh
the
yeah. Yeah.
insurance?
Well,
So
that's other one of the reasons I've been like, I don't know about an excision is one, I'm scared because my first surgery was not great. And two, the financial aspect of it. Like, I found a surgeon here in Washington who's really, really good. People have said really good things about her, but it's $10,000, like out of pocket. And I'm like, baby, I live paycheck to paycheck. Like, I don't have that, which I had no idea that that was such a big thing. Like, I just thought that when I was in Michigan, I would have to pay out of network because I would have to go to like Chicago or something or Wisconsin. But now that when I moved to Seattle, I was like, oh, this shouldn't be a problem. We have so many surgeons here. Like, I'll be able to find someone in network, but they just don't do that. Like, it's just not a thing. So, yeah, please talk about the financial. It's crazy.
Crazy. So again, this is like stuff I dove into after surgery because I would meet other women and they'd be like, yeah, I went to my gyno, I was covered by insurance. I'm like, wait, why wasn't mine covered by insurance? And then that's when I started learning the difference. But the main thing, so ablation, any gynecologist can do it. It usually takes 45 minutes to an hour on average. Obviously, I know you said yours is longer, so that's just like the average thing. But any gynecologist can do it, and they're burning the lesion. They're not getting it from the root, and there's high risk of thermal damage. Like in your experience, they only do the area, like the reproductive area that they're comfortable with. It can be
Hmm.
anywhere else, and they're just leaving it. And then when they're in there, they're just like when they're looking around, they're disturbing things. So it's causing more inflammation. It can, even though they're not doing anything in the area, they're just looking, it still causes inflammation. They're still moving things around.
Yeah.
It still causes issues afterwards, where excision on average is a 6 to 8 hour surgery. Like obviously it could be less, could be more, but just on average, it's the surgeons who do it are that yes, they are gynecologists by trade, but they had to do an extra 2 to 2.5 years of fellowship to be specialists in endometriosis excision. That just showed like there's not enough time in OB/GYN school to learn about excision. So they only are
Hmm.
trained on ablation since it can be taught quicker and it's simpler. Excision, like it's so complex that if you're doing excision, you have to focus on it. You cannot be delivering a baby on Monday and doing an excision on Tuesday. It is too
Yeah.
complex. It is constantly evolving. Like the research around it is constantly evolving. If you're truly doing excision and doing it the right way, you are just focusing on that.
Yeah.
Comes in the financial aspect. So the ablations, technically, there is a excision insurance code. So there's a insurance code, TPT code 58662, that technically covers ablation and excision. However, when the doctor who is performing it, whether they're a gynecologist doing ablation or an excision specialist doing an excision, they're submitting that code. The payout on it is around 70 to
Hmm.
$100 somewhere. It's very less, so very low. So the gynecologist who's doing an ablation and it takes say it takes an hour, 2 hours, they get that $100. It doesn't matter. It's not their bread and butter. It didn't take much of their time. They can do
Yeah.
because if they want to have an ablation day, they can do way more in a day compared to an excision that takes longer. And the pay, like they make their money delivering babies. They make their money doing pap smears and everything else that comes with being an OB/GYN.
Yeah.
Where the excision specialist, this is all they're doing. They have to focus on it. This is what they do. And plus the other aspect of like focusing on it, there's so little of them that do it. They have to focus on it because they have to like be able to help all the women that need the help. You need more
Yeah.
excision specialists that just do it. Like that's part of that's a whole other issue to it. But luckily, these extension specialists are focusing on it, but they can't keep their lights on in their offices, getting paid out $100 if you for 12-hour surgery, 6 hour surgery, or
True.
8 hour surgery, or five, whatever it may be. They can't pay their own like malpractice insurance. They can't pay the people in their office. They can't pay the hospital for the OR time. They can't pay their own bills off of $100. Like it's not reasonable.
Yeah.
But CMS pays out. So that's where the policy aspect comes in, where we need CMS to pay out more um,
Mhm.
for excision. So for that to happen, we need to either create another code that's just for excision and remove it from so there's an ablation one and excision one. So the excision
Yeah.
specialists get paid out more for what they're doing, and then insurance will be covering it, or they'll be able to
Cover more.
it to insurance, and then financial responsibility falls on insurance, not the patient, where now the same as payouts, they can't run their offices, so it forces them out of network. So that's why
Right.
oxygen specialists are out of network because they can't keep their lights on with the CMS reimbursements on that CPT code. So they
Yeah.
have to go out of network. And then that's where their financial responsibility falls on us because they can't do these free surgeries all the time. Like they have a house, they have kids, they have
Yeah.
their own medical bills. Like they
Yeah.
can't do everything for free, no matter how kind-hearted they are. So
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of people don't realize any of that. Like that it really boils down to the insurance is wrong. We need a different solution to that. And because sometimes in the chronic illness community there are like sub sometimes you just go down the wrong rabbit hole and you're like, whoa, this is a lot of negativity right now. And I went down that rabbit hole recently with excision surgery because I was just like, God, why is it costing? I'm like, I already go through enough with endo. I'm like, why do I have to pay $10,000 to get a surgery? And no one said anything like that. Like, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like everybody was just kind of like, well, it's because doctors suck and they don't want to actually help you. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, this is not what's happening. But
That and like the other main issue too is just in terms of treatment, like, and that's the biggest thing that I would say to somebody who's scared to get excision because of your
yeah,
experience is you're dealing with a totally different mindset. You're dealing with a totally different specialty. You're dealing with somebody who is way more knowledgeable in the disease. And excision specialists, uh, at least all the ones that I've met, I don't want to, I'm sure there's the odd few that shouldn't be doing what they're doing and have different mindsets, but the
yeah,
majority they excision specialists go in with the idea of preserving fertility, where ACOG, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they define endometriosis as a gynecological disease, as a menstrual disease, and their guidelines for that is hysterectomy. So the amount of
yeah,
women that get hysterectomies to treat endo or to cure their endo, but that's and again, it's a hard thing because like my aunt, herself on my dad's side. She had a hysteric like and after she's done having kids and she feels great. There's another friend of mine in the neighborhood. She had two kids, struggled with endometriosis forever, struggled to get pregnant, but did it and got a hysterectomy and feels great afterwards. So like it does exist. I don't want to like dismiss those people's stories,
yeah,
but that's not going to cure it because then there's people like me or another girl who has thoracic endo that removing the uterus for the girl with thoracic is not going to do shit. For me,
yeah,
okay, it's going to remove my periods. That's a huge issue, but
yeah.
if
I
I think
think
it's going to be there.
Yeah, so that was another thing that when I was 19, 20, when I got diagnosed, my OBGYN also was like, okay, so get pregnant or get a hysterectomy, which one do you want to do? And I'm like, neither at the
Yeah.
moment. I'm like, what do you mean? And 7 years later, in my brain, I had an endo excision surgeon on the podcast like 6 months ago, and I was like, what do you think about hysterectomy for treating endo? And he was like, if you have endo and adeno, maybe. Because adeno, yeah, makes a little bit more sense. If you have straight up endo, common sense wise, it just doesn't make sense. Like endometriosis is outside of your uterus, so taking out your uterus isn't going to solve the root issue. Will it help with symptom management? Maybe. Like because you're taking out your uterus, so you're not going to have periods anymore. So it depends like what your biggest symptoms are. Are your biggest symptoms related to your period? Take out your uterus, maybe it'll help.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine that for some people it would help, but at the same time, like it, if you're trying, it's all a mindset thing. You have to like figure out how you're thinking about it. Like, are you trying to actually solve the root issue? And is that why you're getting a hysterectomy? Okay, not gonna solve the root issue. Are you trying to symptom manage and that's why you're getting a hysterectomy? Maybe, you know? So that kind of situation. But also, I just wish we would stop telling people to like get a hysterectomy or get pregnant and that's gonna like fix you because we're just lying. Like that's not true.
And that's what I think a lot of the fear mongering with these gynos is like the amount of women that I've spoken to, and I mean, they said it to me too as a patient, like it's
Yeah.
clearly like that they'll say like one of the reasons they didn't want to do surgery was you're too young and we don't want to remove your ovaries. And if we see endo in your ovaries, we're just going to take them, or your fallopian tube, we're just going to take them. And then
Yeah.
obviously it was a huge fear going into
Yeah.
excision specialist. But after having that conversation, they're like, no, that's not like we want to preserve it. And they're trained specifically because the ovary is so like the amount of I'm not a medical professional. I'm just going
Hmm.
off of the frequent conversation with the medical
Yeah.
professionals is these gynecologists, they're not trained to like to know how to go into the ovary and excise the endo or eat and like you can only laser so much like so they're not trained on how to do that. And it is
Yeah.
complex and it is dangerous. But somebody who's trained in it, like an excision specialist who is doing this shit day in and day out, to
Hmm.
them, yes, it's complex, but it's what they do. They know exactly what to do. They know how to handle it. They know how to
Yeah.
preserve fertility. They know how to not and even forget about fertility because that always pissed me off too. Like I'm 18. I'm not deciding if I want to have kids or not. I'm 28 and I'm still just don't know if I want like that's
Yeah.
I hate that whole fertility conversation,
I
but
know that's a
it
whole nother
looks
like
out.
tier.
But
Yeah.
it's hormones. Like you get your ovaries produce your estrogen. Like that affects your hormone management and like
Hmm.
forget about fertility. Like all that. And like your hormones control so much in your body. So like you want
Hmm.
your ovaries and your fallopian and your uterus for other reasons than fertility. And the excision specialists are trained to do that. The gynecologists are not. The gynecologists are told, and no, remove that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I know. I logically I'm like I need to get an excision. I need to figure this out. Especially my symptoms in the past couple of years have just been getting like worse. Like especially the biggest symptom that I like can't deal with recently, well, for the past like 2 years is frequent urination. I literally have to pee like every 30 minutes. And I actually don't even have to pee. I just feel like my bladder is full. And then I go pee and it's like a little tinkle. And I'm like, you're actually kidding me. Like I can't sleep because this is keeping me up. And my primary, she's not an endo specialist, but she has endo in her title as well. But she doesn't do surgeries. She just is a primary care that did some extra education on endo, I guess. But she is like fully convinced that I have endometriosis like all over my bladder, and that's why like I have to pee all the time. And my PCOS is like unmanageable these days. Like my hormones are all over the place. She was like, you need to have surgery. Like you need to get over this and have surgery. I'm like, yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. I just had a conversation with Dr. Larish. He's a Euro gynecologic surgeon here in New
Hmm.
York, and he works with a specialist who like it's every surgery he's there.
Yeah.
He was explaining how like with the bladder and that it's like it could be endo on the bladder, it could be endo on the nerve. And like that's putting so like a lot of women who get frequent UTIs, like
Hmm.
endo, it's not actually bacteria. Like it's not like E. coli bacteria or anything like that that's like causing the UTI. It's just the UTI-like symptoms caused by the endo on the nerve. So
Hmm.
all these women, I'm sure you've been in this spot, you're getting these antibiotics to treat your UTI, but it's not a bacterial caused UTI.
Yeah.
It's just the symptoms that mimic it from the nerves. And that's, I'm like paraphrasing him with
Yeah. Yeah.
other explanation, but they just all like how I know just the bladder concept. Like, so removing the uterus isn't going to help anything on the bladder. Um,
No. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, get you in, girl.
I know. I know.
I know it's
And
scary though. It's fucking
it's
terrifying.
just there's so much that goes into it. Like one, it's a huge surgery. Like my recovery after my ablation was awful, and that was just an ablation. So I'm just like, like this is gonna be rough. Two, it's so freaking expensive. So I'm just like, how do people even afford this? Which also, I'll let you go into Endo Excision for All and like what you're doing with all of that because that's really interesting. But then the third thing is like I know I have endometriosis. I've been diagnosed with it. They sent my tissue to pathology 7 years ago. I know that I have it. But why can't I get it out of my brain that I'm going to go into this surgery 7 years later and they're going to be like, oh, we don't see anything. There's nothing here. I'm like scared. Like, it's
You've
what
been
this
like
disease does
trained,
to you.
you've been trained to gaslight yourself.
Yeah.
Not trained, but you know what I mean?
It's,
You've been
yeah. Yeah. It's
molded to.
hard. But I feel like so many people in our community feel that way too. Like I've talked to so many people that like have had multiple surgeries for endo and every time they're like I go in and I'm scared that I like don't have it and that this has all been mistaken and that I've done all this for nothing and I'm like also, I've heard like from the endo excision that I had on the podcast, we talked and he was very like, you have to remind yourself that endo isn't stagnant. It's not linear. It's very like adhesions grow and shrink and grow. So like, and it also depends like where you're pulling tissue from. So when you have surgery, they don't send everything to pathology. They send like a couple samples. So like you could still, I don't know. It's not all just based on pathology. It's based on like looking at it too and whatever. So, anyways, and no excision for all. Tell me about it. What is
Yes.
this?
obviously, given the financial barrier, insurance barrier, that was like something that when I after surgery and I wanted to get involved and like try to help fix something. I don't know. I just wanted to get involved in the endo community and reach out to a bunch of foundations, work closely with one local here and still do, even though I have my own, like we work together. And
Hmm.
everyone that I reach out to is like phenomenal for research and advocacy. But everybody preaches excision. Like that's the messaging we want to get out there. It's like get excision,
Yeah.
fight insurance, and but nobody's helping with helping like in the meantime, how are we helping women get surgeries? Like that
Yeah.
like I in the position I was in, like I was in the I mean the only better position would be to not have the check written to the Dr. Matter, but other than that, like I had the money to drain. Like I was able to get a 0% credit card and put the remainder on that and pay it off over time for 12 years without interest. Like I was able to like do all that shit. So, and I don't have kids, right? So it is, my focus is me. So why was it so freaking hard? Like like other people, like I understand it. I understand how even if you have like I don't want to say privilege because it was still fucking hard, but have like the ability to work around it and it still affects your life so much. Like if I had three kids, I wouldn't have been able to do it. That money would have
Hmm.
gone. Like that it wouldn't have been there. So like helping people who across the board either one, find the right doctor, and then two, be able to get to it since it's there's a few states that have doctors that I would recommend.
Yeah.
And then pay for it, pay the bills, or navigate. Obviously, like you can't. My foundation's been around for a year. Like you can't pay for everybody's surgery, but helping people navigate how to pay for it. So like guiding through that process of okay, what's your credit score? How are we finding a zero? Like what credit cards do you have now? What's the
Hmm.
interest rates on these? Like let's see
Hmm.
if you can apply and get a 0% credit card with a max of at least 5,000 so that you can transfer the money there and or like put it on half of it on that and then pay that off over the next 12 months with like the minimum payments and not have to worry about interest. How can we, pull something out of your 501(k) and pay the least amount of taxes? Like let's have a conversation with your accountant. Let's have a conversation with your HR at your company and see
Hmm.
like what they can do with the insurance plan to get you the best out of network benefits. Like, can we switch your plan? Can we like just all the those are like three things, but like all the things that can be done to minimize the cost or make the cost more manageable, help like setting up GoFundMe's and just
Yeah.
getting it out there. Like you'd be surprised when you put it out there, like the amount of people that want to help you, like just on Facebook. Like
Yeah.
I understand how difficult it is to put your story out there, especially when you feel like you don't need, if you don't have the diagnosis and I mean, even with diagnosis, it's difficult, but if you don't have it, okay, what if like these people kind of crowdfund for me and then I have surgery and it was for no reason, they found nothing. Like that was a waste of everybody's money. And how do I tell people that their money went to waste? But at the same time, it's not going to waste because something that made me feel better going into it was going into surgery and having that doubt of like, what if they don't find anything? They're inside
Yeah.
you. They're inside, especially if you have pelvic symptoms, they are inside your pelvic region. If they don't
Yeah.
find endo, they should find something.
Yeah.
They're inside you. So somebody on our board, on the board of Endo Excision For All, she had endometriosis surgery. They came out of surgery and they're like, oh, we got all these lesions. Like you should start feeling better. Pathology came back, they were all negative. So they have no idea what they removed. And basically like she
Yeah.
does have adeno, but
Uh-huh.
the lesions tested negative for endo. So there's no real reason they're still looking into it. But she also had something that like outside of the endo and adeno stuff, she had something on her belly button or inside her belly button that like didn't show up in any scans or any MRIs that not the umbilical cord stuff, something that like when we're born
Yeah.
it's cut and hers wasn't. And it didn't show on any te like any scans or anything. So they removed that and that took a significant amount of her pain away. It might not be endo, it might not be I don't know, but they're gonna find something probably.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. That's just obviously there's no
Yeah,
doubt.
it does give you a little bit more peace like going into it because it is a really scary thing. But I also just think that no matter what, at least you're getting an answer
Yeah.
for something. Like, and that
Without.
makes it worth it. Like you're getting even, and that's why like I fought so hard for that original surgery that I had Because I was like, and my doctor was like, she was like, no, surgery hurts, doesn't help, like da 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 da. And I was like, at least I'll get a yes or a no. At least I will be able to cross that off the list and be like, okay, something else is still going on. We'll figure it out. But
Mhm.
like, at least I know it's not endo and I can cross it off. If there were an easier way to diagnose it, I would have done it, but it was surgery. So that's what it was. Yeah, I also fully believe that in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we are going to have different types of endometriosis that we're not testing for right now. And that's why, like, those lesions came back negative because we don't have the testing for it. Or, like, I fully believe that for the way that endometriosis presents so widespread and so different for so many people, I think that, like, stages 1 through 4 are four completely different diseases that are around endometriosis. So, mark my words, eventually that will come out. I have a feeling. I know it. Like, it just, I've never heard of any disease being so crazy widespread that we're just like, yeah, let's put it all under the same name. Let's put it all under the same bucket and they all have the same symptoms, but like, it's just not true. They don't.
And
So,
I think nobody knows where it comes from like that.
yeah, I'm like,
It's so
what are we? We
similar.
just,
It's so similar to cancer.
I
And
know.
that's scary as shit. But also like there has to be some research like and obviously cancer, like I mean, endo's known as like the cancer that doesn't kill,
I
given
know
the amount of
that's,
women have lost their lives with other related endo things. But for the most part, like you get a cancer diagnosis, you're like, fuck, am I gonna die? Endo, you're like,
yeah.
okay, I need to just learn how to deal with this. So I'm not making comparisons at all whatsoever to the
No,
experience.
but I do
But
like
the growth
sometimes,
of it.
yeah, sometimes when people are not like understanding just how serious endometriosis can be, I will explain it to them like that. I'm like, when you think about how cancer grows and you think about how endometriosis grows, if I put these two definitions side by side, they sound pretty damn similar. Like,
The,
I,
the only difference is that cancer tissue like actively is trying to like destroy the organ and
yeah,
endo just sits there. But why does it
yeah,
sit there? Why
yeah,
isn't it trying? Like, thank God it's not, but like, why isn't it trying
I
to
know.
attack the organ? Why is it laying there? Is it waiting to? Like, is it one day gonna wake up if and like try to,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's
Well, the crazy, so with cancer tissue, it actively tries to go inside. So, okay, here's like our cell, whatever. Cancer
yeah,
tissue like literally goes at it and is like, I want to get inside of it and break you apart.
yeah,
Endo tissue will just suffocate it and it'll
yeah.
go all around your organ and climb together and make this little friggin' spider web sticky tissue and cover your organ, eventually suffocating it,
Yes.
kill it eventually. But that's like the biggest, like, yeah, it's not. So then they say, oh, well, endometriosis tissue isn't trying to like kill off. Okay, sure. But eventually it will, or it can, because it can
Yeah.
suffocate it. But yeah, I definitely. And then people are like, oh my God, like it's more serious. And I'm like, yeah, it is more serious. Like this is an issue. People have lost organs to endometriosis because it cuts off the blood supply. Like, that's an issue.
Like that has to be more of a narrative around research because I mean, there's a researcher at a endo lab in New York, and he his whole career was around colon cancer or colorectal
Hmm.
cancer. When he started learning about endo, he's like, I mean, that's where I got that info from. So, was how similar it grows to cancer. And he's like, he was just so fascinated by it. So now he focuses on endo. But he's like, people
Hmm.
don't understand how endometriosis research also helps cancer research, like because of how similar it grows. So it's
Yeah.
like you're helping a larger thing here too. Like it's there's such like
Hmm.
they have to find out if they can find out why endo grow, like where it comes from, how it starts, that could help diagnose, like figure out more about why cancer starts and like ovarian cancer or
Yeah,
uterine cancer, like things like that, like how it's like just the research. I don't know. My mind gets so like
I
fucked
know.
by this stuff because again, I'm not a medical professional. I don't know. I'm just listening to what they say, but
Hmm.
it's crazy. How has this disease been around forever? And like
Hmm.
just in the last 10 years, we're really the last five, we're learning about it more and talking about it, and
Hmm.
people are actually developing an interest. Why?
Yeah. It's really crazy. And the fact that it's not considered autoimmune is also mind-boggling to me because I'm like, well, what? I'm like, guys, the guidelines are not black and white all the time. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's it is autoimmune. Like I don't know what, but whatever. But technically not. But it
technically
really
it's
does.
gynecological.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, it's ridiculous. How can people, anyone listening to this podcast, or anyone that sees any of this information, I'm sorry, what did I just say? Information. I said like information and how can listeners get involved in your mission? How can we help Endo Excision for All? Whether it's like donating, volunteering, or like sharing stuff.
Donating is definitely number one because the amount of women that have reached out looking for help with surgery and I just don't have it. Like I just
Yeah.
fundraising is slow, especially like I said, we've been around a year, like to the month. So the first year was around community building and just wanting to
Hmm.
get the name out there, make people aware of the work we're doing and why. Ultimately, our goal is to not have to exist anymore. Like if these excision specialists can be brought in that like what we were talking about before, not before set a network, then we wouldn't have to
Yeah.
exist. And that is the ultimate goal. But I think it takes somebody who's just focusing on this to help make that happen. We don't participate in research. We don't participate in anything but funding excision surgeries. Every penny does go. That's something I'm trying to hold on to, and I really want that to
Hmm.
be our main thing. Any donation, it's not going to the Zoom account. It's not going to the Gmail account. It's going directly to a patient. So that's something I like to acknowledge too. I feel like it makes people feel better about where their money's going.
Yeah.
But yeah, just donating is definitely the first one because I didn't think as many women would find us and reach out in such a short amount of time, but they are, which shows how needed it is. So that's number one. And then second, reaching out to policymakers. There's a part on our website, Endo Excision For All. There's a page where there's templates basically, and we also have links to find your local policymakers to reach out to. Basically, I feel like this is across the board with any issue in politics is just the louder you get, the more likely you are to be heard, no matter how substantial and important your issue is. Like there's like we're not the only important issue out there, right? So we just need to, like the louder we are and the more we talk about this and the more we're in DC and on Capitol Hill and talking to the representatives and talking to their legislative teams, it's just
Hmm.
like a time game, I feel like, and just the pushier we are, the
Yeah.
more likely we are to have that happen and all the little things. So right now, like we have a petition to get Excision its own code, because that's one
Yeah.
component.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, and then the other component, something that we're starting to work on, so it's not on our website yet, but just in our last few trips to DC, is I like the whole idea here is we need to put pressure on CMS. The CMS needs to pay out more, and that would eliminate all of this. So pressure needs to be put on CMS. They're not listening. So something else that we could do is do other things to put pressure on them and help patients in the meantime. So like endometriosis, that needs to be added to the American Disabilities Act. Like that needs to be listed on the
Yeah.
ADA. That needs to be part of FMLA. If you have chronic migraines, and I mean, don't quote me on this. It's the first example I thought of, but like if you have chronic migraines, I'm pretty sure you can go on FMLA and like get the collect disability.
Yeah, you
Endometriosis,
can.
you can't. So that's a main issue there. Like the amount of women that are, forget about insurance, that are on Medicaid because they can't work due to endo. How are they don't have out-of-pocket benefits. They don't have any of that. So they have to pay even more. But if they can, collect disability and for endo, not having to like fudge something else, because that
Yeah.
puts more work on yourself and your body. And that hopefully that would put more pressure on CMS. Other thing that I've been kind of trying to have open this conversation with lobbyists and politicians is, and this is a larger effort, but if we
Hmm.
could separate OB-GYN, like have obstetrics be a specialty and gynecologists be a specialty, then in the 4 years of med school, there would be more time in gyne
Hmm.
the gynecologic specialty to learn excision. So then
Yep.
you don't have to do the extra 2 years of schooling, which they're obviously paying for themselves to get it done, like to get the training. They would have the time to learn excision. So then hopefully we can outdate ablation because they'll have the time to learn excision and be properly trained on it. And then they're doing that. So yeah, they can do a pap smear on a Monday and excision on a Tuesday, but they're not delivering babies and all the stuff that comes with
Yeah.
it's like we only have so much brain space. Like I get it, but that's like, part of the change I feel like that needs to happen. We can't just accept that they don't have the brain space to do all of it. Like we need to make changes So just
Hmm.
having those conversations with people and getting that information out there. And the second thing with education is just excision. Just learn teaching people that excision is the gold standard and to reach out to foundations like mine to be able to figure out how to get it done, considering how inaccessible it is.
I love all of that. I think that's all so important. There are so many things that need to change, but those are really big. Those are really big. And s starting with like policymakers and just like getting down to the nitty-gritty and like what actually needs to happen is amazing. You're doing really, really good work.
Yeah, it's a long process. Like that's the thing. It's like when people are like, "Oh, what happened to you were in DC?" It's like a day. Like it's not
Yeah.
like you
Like I'm
don't just
trying.
go to like the hill one day and it's like, "Oh, great, this bill's passed." Like, it's a
Yeah, no, it's a
starting month
process.
and a half to. So like the more people behind it, the more likely and faster it could hopefully happen.
Yeah. Yeah. We just need to get louder, which
Exactly.
is, I love it. We can do that.
Yeah.
Um, where can people find you on social media?
Instagram is our main ad, Endo Excision For All. So we share just like patient resources,
Hmm.
blog posts on different things. The multi-organ impact is something I'm personally really passionate about, just because
Yeah.
of how long I dealt with it and knew what endo was. So like I was doing my own research as a teenager and never came across the multi-organ impact. So I am biased with that in terms of like our blogs and patient resources
Yeah.
focusing on that type of stuff like cardiac and just how likely women with endometriosis are to have arrhythmias, like things like that. All of our blog posts and patient resources have resources, references listed
Hmm.
underneath. I'm not pulling anything out of my ass. Everything's
Love
everything's
that.
backed up by studies
Yeah.
and conversations with doctors or their journals and stuff like that. So try and just be an information hub.
We need that. I love that. That was like one of the biggest reasons that I started the podcast too is I have a master's in science. So I'm like, I can read research papers and I can understand like what they're saying. And I feel like a lot of times there's just so much misinformation on social media. And I'm like, where did you get that? I'm like, where did this come from? This doesn't, and then you go and like try to find it, and I'm like, there's no information about this. So I love that. I love that you're like citing things and that's important. So
Me too. Me too, for to show people where it's coming from, but also like legally protect ourselves.
yeah.
Um, so definitely like there's none of that's biased. Like, and obviously need to legally protect the organization. So all
Yeah.
the references are done to the top standard.
Yeah. You're like, we got it. This is
Yeah.
information. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was so fun. I think
Yeah.
people are gonna
Thank you
love
for having
this
me.
episode.